A massive fire erupts in displaced camp in Hodeidah and causes serious damage in the camp. Yemeni government accuses Houthis of rejecting all peace efforts. Houthi mines continue to claim civilian lives across the country. Welcome to Yemen Today TV. I'm Abir Ali and you are watching the English news. A massive fire erupted in one displaced people's camp in Al-Makha district in Hodeidah. According to Yemen Today reporter, the fire caused serious damage in the camp. This report has more details.
The displaced families live in fear inside the displacement camps. Even if the sources of threat change, the tragedy remains the same. As soon as their battle with cold, diseases, and rain ends, fires break out and devour their tents to face another tragedy that is not any easier than the previous ones. Yesterday, after Friday prayers, a fire broke out in Al-Alili camp in Al-Khoukha district, south of Hodeidah Governorate. According to local sources, the fire destroyed 6 homes for displaced families living in tents built of fabrics and sheets.
I saw the fire. Everyone was screaming and running around. I rushed to help despite my condition. I recently had a surgery as a landmine exploded and I got injured. My children were terrified and scared. We're displaced here in this camp and we don't have anything. We're suffering a lot. I still need to go to the hospital to receive a proper treatment.
The displaced people in the camp rushed and were able to put out the fire before it reached the rest of the tents and caused a disaster in the camp that contains hundreds of displaced families who were forcibly displaced by the Houthi militia from their villages. It was pointed out that the fire destroyed all the food aid and shelter materials inside the tents, and the affected families became without food or shelter.
On that day, we were sitting in our tents. We didn't realize what was happening till the fire reached 6 of the tents. We tried to save the children and women here, but we couldn't get any of their stuff. Everything was burnt down inside the tents. We didn't know what caused the fire. We asked the concerned authorities to help us during this hard time.
The fires constitute a terrifying nightmare for the displaced and their families. This is not the first time for displaced people to live such a tragedy. Their homes in the camps are constantly exposed to the danger of fires due to the fragile structure of the tents and the lack of services.
The United Nations announced that 522 African migrants were killed in Yemen during the 8 years of war. This came in a recent report by the International Organization for Migration, which documented the victims of illegal immigration since 2014. Since the Missing Migrants Project began documenting deaths in 2014, more than 50,000 people around the world have lost their lives during such journeys. Ukraine announced the provision of humanitarian aid for African countries. The Ministry of Internal Affairs in Ukraine affirmed that it would ensure the delivery of humanitarian aid goods to Yemen, Sudan, Kenya, and Nigeria. The Yemeni government has accused the Houthis of rejecting all peace efforts. This came in a statement by the chief of the staff, Saghir bin Aziz, who added that rebel militia continues attacking civilian infrastructure. This report has more.
The Houthi militia continue to drag down Yemen due to their inflexibility and insistence on continuing the war against the Yemeni people strictly in pursuit of Iran's agenda. According to the UN, hundreds of thousands of people have died directly from fighting, as well as indirectly, and millions have been displaced. The Chief of General Staff Saghir bin Aziz stated that Iran-backed Houthis are not willing to reach a peace agreement because they are bound to fulfilling Iran's destructive agenda in the region. The Yemeni official met his Saudi counterpart and commander of the Joint Forces and Deputy Chief of the General Staff in Riyadh. The meeting discussed topics of shared interests and measures to improve ties between the Saudi and Yemeni armed services. In addition, the officials received an update from Benghazi on the latest terrorist acts by the Houthis. He took a note of their violations of the now expired UN truce and their failure to support efforts to extend it. The truce began on April 2 and was extended twice until October 2. The April truce ended key military operations in Yemen as well as cross-border movements in the 7-year conflict, and it helped alleviate a humanitarian disaster that has left millions starving. The truce has also helped drop civilian casualty by 60%, and civilian displacement has decreased by over 50% during the 4-month truce. Benghazi continued by saying that the militias are choosing to reject peace and escalate in the conflict in order to advance Iran's agenda in Yemen and the Arab world. He also added that the militias won't comply with the demands for peace, as they don't actually believe in it. The peace process in Yemen has yet to make any significant progress, yet Yemenis still have hope for a better future.
More than 470 high school graduates have taken exams at Taiz University. These exams were to compete for culture exchange scholarships for the following year. The Technical Committee of the Ministry of Higher Education issued a number of important instructions for students applying for the exams.
Today, around 470 students have passed the exams provided by the Ministry of Higher Education. The exams were corrected electronically, as we always do in Taiz University. We hope all the best for the students who've passed the high school exams and joined our university exams today.
The parties to the Mine Ban Treaty agreed to extend support to Yemen in the field of mine clearance. This came during a meeting of the parties to the convention at the Mine Ban Conference held in Geneva. In the speech of the director of the National Program for Mine Action in Yemen, reviewed the difficulties that the country faced as a result of mine-related actions. Houthi mines continue to claim civilians' lives in Yemen, despite the efforts made by the engineering teams and Massam project. Hundreds of people still fall victims of such landmines. This report has more details.
Yemen's 8-year war has resulted in the displacement of millions, the killing of thousands, and a rise in the death toll from landmines. Despite pleas from activists and human rights defenders to put pressure on the Houthi rebels to turn over maps of mine locations. Mine explosions were the leading cause of civilian deaths and the killing of a large number of animals. Furthermore, even during the 6-month truce, the landmines presented a significant risk to the engineering clearing teams. One of the most significant obstacles for demining teams is the engineering staff's lack of training and rehabilitation, as well as a shortage of resources. Torrential rains also constituted a significant obstacle for the engineering teams, who had to work again in previously cleared areas. Another implicitly sinister development is the transformation of traditional mines into other varieties, camouflaged as rocks and debris owing to the Houthis' imported know-how from foreign powers. Affected shepherds stated that the area of grazing and cultivation has dwindled, and the economic conditions of the majority of the population remain dire. The shepherds also indicated that explosives hidden in unforeseen areas have resulted in the amputation of several victims, including children and the elderly.
6 cases of amputations were recorded, with the victims now having to use wheelchairs. They were going about their daily lives when they stumbled across Houthi-planted mines. Even cattle were not spared from unexploded ordnances and landmines.
The Yemeni Landmine Observatory emphasized that it was able to observe and record 81 civilian deaths, including 43 children and 5 women, as well as 192 injuries, including 82 children and 13 women, during the period of the ceasefire, adding that the majority of them were seriously wounded, and many of them were forced to live with permanent disabilities. The victims appealed to humanitarian and human rights organizations and active mine clearing centers to consider their continuous suffering in the face of repeated mine explosions. According to reports from international and local groups, Yemen has seen the greatest mine-laying campaign on the ground since the conclusion of World War II.
تكلم عن مديرية عسيلان خاصة وعن معاناته من الألغام في هذه المديرية من أكثر المواقف التي صابتني أني فقدت أحد أساتذتي في هذه الكلية بسبب الألغام. فقدناه بسبب الألغام. وفي ناس كثير تأثروا عندنا في منطقة عسيلان، في منهم يعني تحاصروا، ما قدروا حتى يأخذوا قوتهم لمدة أسابيع بسبب الألغام. كأن هذا مشروع انتقام من الشعب بأكمله، ليس يعني حرب بين جيش، كأنها إبادة، حرب إبادة لليمنيين بشكل عام.
Coming next in the news. A farmer from Taz starts growing strawberries for the first time in the city. Welcome back. The Minister of Water and Environment discussed with the German company PWT the reasons for the failure of implement the $30 million project. The project aimed to raise the efficiency of the treatment plant for the city of Sana'a, funded by the Arab Fund for Economic and Social Development. During the meeting, the minister pointed out that the project is one of the stalled projects since 2014, stressing the need to put in place necessary solutions to close this file. The UNICEF said during the past week, more than 30,000 government teachers received cash incentives based on performance. The office started that kind of support ensures the continuation of classrooms activity, noting that this initiative is being implemented as part of the Teaching and Learning Restoration Project funded by the World Bank. Thousands of teachers in Houthi-controlled areas have been suffering from the interruption of their salaries for years. The war damaged the infrastructure of most of educational facilities. Teachers are not paid their salaries and have lost motivation to teach. Yet, a new initiative funded by King Salman Center was started to provide in-service teachers with professional training courses. This report has more.
Education is one of the most affected sectors by the war. Millions of children were deprived from the right to education. Teachers are not getting paid. Schools are being bombarded and destroyed by the Houthi airstrikes and explosive devices. In Houthi-controlled areas, many teachers have stopped teaching because their salaries have not been paid. According to a UNICEF report, over 2 million school children in Yemen are now out of school as poverty, conflict, and lack of opportunities disrupt their education. Also, 2/3 of teachers in Yemen have not received regular salaries for more than 5 years, which puts around 4 million additional children at risk of disrupted education or dropping out, as unpaid teachers quit teaching to find another financial source to provide for their families. The Saudi Program for the Development and Reconstruction of Yemen signed an agreement to implement the International Professional Teaching Certificates project with King Saud University, represented by the King Abdullah Institute for Research and Consulting Studies. The agreement aims to unify efforts and facilitate the implementation of the project with development partners to improve the professional competence of teachers in Yemen. The project, which targets male and female teachers in various areas and educational levels, aims at enabling them to obtain and implement the International Professional Teaching Certificates to achieve the Yemeni Education Ministry goals in pursuit of effective development of human resources in education. Several executive partners are part of the project, including the King Saud University and the Islamic World Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization. The project seeks to guarantee the continuity of learning and professional development among teachers. It also enables teachers to perform their duties and trains them on efficiency. Armed conflict in Yemen have brought many devastating barriers to learning. The protracted nature of conflicts today negatively affects the future of entire generations in Yemen, particularly that of children and most vulnerable communities. The right to education must be respected, upheld, and enjoyed by everyone, especially in situations of armed conflict and insecurity.
Yemen, the worst famine the world has seen in 100 years. Right now, over 8 million people are facing starvation. Since the beginning of the war, 85,000 children have died due to the lack of food. We cannot allow this to continue. The Yemeni people can't wait.
The national football team conducted first training camp in Egypt. During the training session, the players performed various exercises in order to monitor their levels and capabilities, to work on their evaluation and address any technical errors. The delegation of the national football team had arrived in Cairo and headed directly to the camp headquarters near the Egyptian city of Al Fayoum. The Saudi national football team lost in front of its Polish counterpart with 2 goals. The match brought the team together at the Education City Stadium in Doha in the second round of Group 3 of the 2022 FIFA World Cup. The Polish national team's goals were scored at the 39th minute of the first half of the match, while Saudi national team player missed a penalty kick. The Middle East and North Africa Financial Action elected Yemen as vice chair of the group for the next year, 2023. The meeting, which was held in Morocco over a period of 2 days, reviewed the 4th modernization report of Yemen, which included the country's most prominent efforts in the past 2 years. Yemen is mainly a cultural country with diverse geography. This climate diversity helps growing a lot of crops. In Taiz, the farmer Arif al-Sabri started growing strawberries on Sabr Mount as a first attempt to plant this crop. This report gives more details.
Farmer Arif al-Sabri had the first strawberry cultivation experience in Taiz, and after 1 year later, it was considered as an exotic fruit in the culture of local farmers. The Houthi siege imposed on the city is one of the main reasons for growing this fruit.
The
start of this project was really difficult. We started 9 months ago and we bought an American nursery from Sana'a. We also got some stuff from the Mar and Taiz. It's a hard experience, but this project is a real success.
In Jabal Sabri, there are many crops ranging from vegetables, fruits, food, and even flowers, but farmers did not start planting strawberry until last year.
It's a strawberry nursery. Unfortunately, the strawberries that come from Sana'a are unripe and not fresh. We hope we can provide fresh strawberries in local markets.
Strawberries have a great popular demand, and most citizens buy it either as a fruit from the market or as a ready-made juice from shops because of how delicious it is.
We buy strawberries from Arif al-Sabri, the farmer. It's better than the Mar strawberry.
Sabri is one of the many farmers that try his best to live his life normally and make a living, despite the Houthi siege on the city and their constant violations.
Here is a reminder of the main headlines. A massive fire erupts in displaced camp in Hodeidah and causes serious damage in the camp. Yemen government accuses the Houthis for rejecting all peace efforts. Houthi mines continue to claim civilians' lives across the country. This is the end of the news. It was Abir Ali, and thank you for watching.